Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with a new video, and today I wanted to share some of my favorite setting powders. But before we get started, if it is your first time watching, please hit the subscribe button, and if you are a returning subscriber, don't forget to hit the like button. The first powder I will be starting with is the Dior Forever Cushion powder. This retails for $65. It's available in 3 shades. This is a powder that I use all over. I don't just use it underneath my eyes, and I have the shade Deep, by the way, and that's one of the reasons why I just use it all over my face. I feel like this is a really nice setting powder. It is finely milled. Now, this is not a matte powder, so if you're somebody who like to stay away from matte loose powders, this is a really good option. This is going to give you like a nice natural finish. It really helps keep your makeup in place, and it also doesn't have any flashback. This is one of my favorite ones. Now, I haven't used it in a while just because I have other ones that I will be sharing in today's video that I like a lot better, but this is a really good powder that I will highly recommend for somebody who has dry skin, normal to dry, or you just don't like matte powders in general, because this is not matte at all. This is going to give you like a nice natural finish. This is really pretty on the skin. And the next powder that's absolutely one of my favorites that I will highly recommend, and I'm quite sure a lot of you guys have tried this out already. This is the powder from Chanel. This is pretty popular here on YouTube. I have the shade 40. This is a shade that I use all over my face. Sometimes I just use it under my eye. It depends. This is not like a shade that's going to give you like a bright under eye look. Also, this retails for about $49. To me, this is a very matte powder. It can be a little too dry if you go in with a lot. And also, one thing that I love about this powder is that it still comes with a powder puff. I wish all powders came with their own powder puff, but another plus when you're thinking about picking this powder up, again, I feel like this is pretty popular here on YouTube, so I'm not gonna spend that much time talking about it. I know at one point it was kind of a debate on whether the old formula versus the reformulated was a lot better. To be honest, I don't know which formula I had original powder, again, that I will highly recommend. At one point I used to use this all the time. Powder that I will be sharing that I would highly recommend actually used to be like a holy grail for me at one point, but I stopped using it as much because, one, I feel like you don't get as much product for the price. So that's one of the main reasons why I don't use it often, because when I was using this a lot, I was going through them like that, and this powder is expensive to me anyway. This is a Givenchy Prism powder, and I have the shade 5. Along with setting your makeup in place, this also blurs, and it also keeps your foundation matte. This was one that I used all the time. If you've been around on my channel, when I first really started getting into YouTube a couple years ago, this was like my go-to. But again, I stopped using it because I do feel like you don't get a lot of product in here. I can run through this easily, and I know for me, once this start running out and you're pretty much left with the shade that's a little orange in here, once it's more of the orange powder coming out, I do feel like that will change the color of your foundation. It will get a little dark. Even with all that, I still do like this powder, and I would recommend this for all skin types. The next powder that I will highly recommend, I actually picked this up earlier this year. This is the Ultra Blur Translucent Powder from Mercier. I was never really a huge fan of the other translucent powder, the one that's really popular from Mercier, but I decided to give this one a try earlier this year, and I fell in love with it. This powder is available in 3 shades. It also retails for $48. This is blurring, and it also keeps you matte. I freaking love the way that this looks on camera, and usually when I'm doing something on YouTube, this is one of the powders that I grab. It's either this one or the Huda Beauty one, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, but this has been one of my go-tos. I have the shade Honey. Sometimes I use this all over, but mainly I just use it under my eyes. But this has really been one of my go-to powders this year. Like, I love it. I will highly recommend it. If you have oily skin, large pores, you really need to pick this up. This is going to help keep you matte all day. Highly recommend. The last powder that I will highly recommend, of course, it comes from Huda Beauty, and this is their Easy Bake translucent powder. I have 3 different shades, so that tells you pretty much how much I like this powder. I did use the shade Blondie. I used that under my eyes to set my concealer. I also have the shade Kanafa. This is one that I use sometimes. This is really yellow. This is going to give you a bright under eye look. And I also have the shade Coffee Cake. I don't use Coffee Cake too much because when I picked this up, I was actually going to get the other deep shade before this one, but at Sephora they didn't have it, so I picked this one up. And I don't like this because I feel like this will change the color of your foundation and make it a little too dark. So I don't really use this, obviously, but the main two that I use are these ones. And this retails for about $38. I think they're available in about maybe 6 to 7 shades. I don't know offhand. And you could also pick these up in a mini size. I first picked up the shade Kanafa in a mini size, and I've been in love with it. This has been my go-to powder that I use all the time. This is going to help keep your foundation matte. This is long wearing. You're going to look poreless. One of those powders that's going to make you look airbrushed. You're going to look poreless. This is going to help matte. It's going to blur. This is just everything. This is my go-to powder. I would highly, highly recommend these to all skin types. This is just I would highly, highly recommend these powders to all skin types. Now, I know a lot of y'all, I would highly, highly recommend these powders to all skin types. They start out with the mini size, see how much you like it, and then of course go out and invest in the full size, and you get a lot of powder in this. I've had this for at least 2 years, and I use this often, and I still have a lot of powder in it, so I would highly, highly recommend these. Before I go, I do have 2 powders that I wanted to mention. I would say these are honorable mentions, and the first one is the One Size Ultimate Blurring setting powders, y'all. I could see this being a holy grail powder for me. Now, this is very similar to the Huda Beauty powder, but this is another one that I would highly recommend. I was a little late when it came to picking up this powder from One Size, but I've been loving it. I actually mentioned it in my favorites for the month of August. This is a really good one. Powder that I did want to mention, I actually got this powder sometime over the summer. This is the Hourglass translucent powder, and I have the shade medium. This is one of the newer shades that just recently was released. Now, this is not the most matte powder, but it is going to give you a beautiful finish, nice and natural, doesn't have any flashback. I haven't worn this a lot yet to add it to a powder that I would absolutely recommend, but I did want to mention it in this video along with the One Size. But anyway, y'all, that is it for today's video. Y'all let me know in the comment section, what are your favorite setting powders? Also, let me know, have you tried out any of the powders I mentioned in today's video? And most importantly, do not forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.